Hello, all. Hopefully, everyone is doing well. I almost pulled a goober and forgot to turn off the camera because my new system has arrived. However, it is not set up yet. It is in dethaw mode. Uh, but yes, new system has arrived. So hopefully, by the time of karaoke, I will officially be back in the main office and not here. So
It did arrive in an igloo, though, right?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you might get a little bit of frostbite touching that outer shell, for a couple of minutes. Um, but we'll do a quick scan through chat and then we'll say hi. Also, I'm sorry I'm confusing everyone, but again, I am still on the backup system, so I'm in the chat as Rambling Canuck and History with R&R because I'm bipolar. Joy.
That
All
works on
right.
so many levels.
Yeah. And Dad, man, do tell the little one, congrats on 600, and do remember to tell her to remember us little folk when she gets to be in the big time. And Gorilla Random thoughts, welcome, and don't worry about tomorrow. You will be missed, but even the great wino of Saturday has to take off a couple of Saturdays.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, it's in his contract. We allow it.
I'm bartending tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll make it back in time to participate.
Now, by Bart, never mind. I won't make that joke. I am tending the bar, Daniel. Where did all the alcohol go? I'm not sure.
I was here.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Anybody got a place I can lay down?
I want to go home now. I gotta go sing a song or three.
All right, and welcome, Mrs. Canuck. If the signal sucks, it's because my signal sucks, but I'm not hardwired like I normally am. Jeez. Welcome, Mrs. Canuck. Hopefully your afternoon is going well. I know yesterday was a complete shit show. Hopefully today is not as bad. Also, who do we have in here? Zax, welcome, sir. Hopefully you're not as cold, although we haven't been that cold the last couple of days. It's been decent. I wouldn't say go swimming just yet. It's not bad.
Polar bear. Come on. You can do it.
Although I will say that snow we got yesterday was absolutely disgusting because we got hit with a snowstorm yesterday, the other night, and my computer would have been here for this show. I would have had it all set up. It would have been all ready to go, but unfortunately it was delayed due to snow. So yay, Canada.
Well,
welcome, John DeMarco, and Mark the Infinitely Tired. Welcome, sir. All right, so with that, I believe where we last left, Timmy, where we last left Danny was, he was explaining how they supplied him a tent that might have had a rip in it, a bed that may be absolutely useless, and one of his fellow soldiers had asked him, yeah, I trust you. I don't trust those motherfuckers. You're sleeping next to me. All right. So he was voluntold to do so.
Yeah. One of the most useful tools for any soldier in any branch or any military personnel in any branch is parachute cord or 550 cord. Okay. And I can tell you that from personal experience and from watching other people use it. You can basically build anything you want with 550 cord. I mean, you could make bracelets out of it. You take the nylon twine stuff out from the middle of the nylon outer casing, and you got a really nice pliable knitting material. You can make a bracelet, or if you got plenty of time and plenty of 550 cord, you can make a freaking blanket out of it.
Yeah, there you go.
That stuff is incredible. But yeah, it's a very useful tool. And the cot that I had flipped my knife out and shredded, my squad leader handed me his cot and took that one and actually made the bed with 550 cord.
And then you wanted your bed back, right?
I did want my bed back because that one didn't sag after a couple of weeks of sleeping on it.
Hey, boss, there. I'll take that broken cod off your hands here, and I'll give you this fresh new one.
Oh, the fun we had. But yeah, we sewed up the tent with 550 cord. I mean, I did tell you that the split in the side of the tent went from the bottom all the way to the top, right? I mean, you could literally drive a truck through our tent. The split was so all the way up the side. Like, okay, well, we're going to have to fix that. So we tied it together with 550 cord. What else did we tie with 550 cord? Any valve that was stuck, we tied with 550 cord.
Oh, there you go.
Any
private that got annoying, we tied.
You know what we call duct tape in the military.
Oh, okay.
You know what we call that? It's called 100-mile-an-hour tape.
Okay.
Now, I don't know this. This is just what I was told when I asked about the name, is that you can tow something up to 100 miles an hour with it taped.
Oh, there you go.
So that's why they call it 100-mile-an-hour tape. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet the farm on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't try it myself.
Don't bet the farm.
But yeah, we had pallets full of 100-mile-an-hour tape and pallets full of 550 cord. Everything that you could think of, it was either tied or taped or slapped together somehow. But yeah, that was our living conditions. And of course, we built a shack over the slit trench and a shack over the okay, they're burn barrels, right? So 55-gallon barrel or a drum, whatever. And it's cut off at about 2-foot level, right?
Okay.
And so it slides underneath a bench.
Okay.
And then that bench hopefully has a toilet seat on it. And you sit down there, you do your business. And then the next morning, per se, you pull the drum out from underneath the bench. You pour some fuel on it and you light it up and you just start stirring.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So what lovely private got that job?
I actually did have to do it once, and I was a specialist. So
lovely.
But mostly we stuck the younger privates with it.
Yeah, I figured as much. I didn't see no freaking lieutenant doing that duty. Yeah. That doesn't sound like it was in the lieutenant's job description. Yeah.
Yeah, once it's all carbon, you slide it right back under the bench, and there you go. You're good to go for another day.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. But the slit trench is never filled up, of course. You know, you're letting water, and water goes down and through the rocks, and you pour a little bit of lye over that, and hey, it doesn't stink. So
there you go.
Yeah, it was a pretty sanitary camp. Whenever we got our 250-gallon water tank filled, our sanitary specialist would go through with some bleach and pour a little bit in there. So we had chlorinated water until, of course, we opened up that second camp, and I still can't remember the name of it. But we sent everybody up there along with the water buffalo and the chiller that went with it. So all we had was bottled water that was sitting in the sun.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, yeah. It got real good right around May.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, you could make sun tea just by grabbing a bottle of water and sticking a tea bag in it.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Well, I guess that would actually be brewed tea, wouldn't it? It wouldn't really be sun tea.
No. Why is my bottle boiling? Don't ask questions, Private. Just drink it.
So as far as fuel operations were concerned, it was an entirely military operation at that time in 2003. So Army fuel trucks would come up from Kuwait and dump fuel into our bags, and then the forward units would pick up the fuel and go forward and support the fighting or support other bases and things like that. The reason our camp only lasted till July is because we were too far south to make a viable logistics base, and maybe too far off the beaten path. So we wrapped up our operations in July. But between the middle of April and the middle of July, we had a lot of time on our hands.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I mean, you got an entire platoon, so that's 4 squads, and you got 2 shifts a day. So you'd have 1 shift every other day, 12 hours, right?
Yeah.
And so 1 squad would go out there and work 12 hours, bring fuel in from Kuwait, distribute it up north, and then you'd have a day and a half off or whatever the case may be. Yeah, guerrilla random thoughts. It did, as a matter of fact. But that was in training, not in Iraq. That was in training.
I would imagine to be rather sandy.
Sandy, and you know what jet exhaust smells like, right?
No.
You've gone to an airport, and that's jet exhaust. What you're smelling in the air for the most part. Okay, that's what they taste like when you cook them on the back of an Abrams. They smell like or taste like jet exhaust.
Oh, there you go.
Where was I? Oh yeah, bringing in fuel, distributing fuel, patching leaks, sucking up dirty fuel, finding a place to get rid of the dirty fuel, all that stuff. You know, standard fuel boringness, blah blah blah. There are funny stories that go along with this, and it happened on both of my fuel storage deployments. So I'll probably repeat myself later in the future, but our 350 gallon per minute pumps had a priming port on top. So you pour, 5 gallons of fuel into the top of it and start up the motor, and it would, as long as the hoses were charged, the pump would start and start pumping fuel automatically.
Yeah.
Well, that's a cam lock mechanism. Do you know what a cam lock is?
I have a rough idea, but explain it anyway.
Okay. So one end of the hose, we call the male end, has a grooved, like 2-inch or 3-inch or 4-inch nozzle, right? It's not a nozzle, but it's the end of a hose, and it's got a groove on it, like fire stations use it and stuff like that. Well, the female end goes over that, and then on either side of the female end of the hose, there are 2 levers, and they have cams on them. So you get the hose real tight. There's an O-ring in there, and then you close the cams up. And that's a cam lock.
Okay.
And so it locks the 2 hoses in place with the O-ring between them. And the cam lock on the priming port on the 350 GPM pump sometimes would vibrate to the point where the cams were no longer locking, and you've got the pump at a full RPM.
Okay.
And so as soon as those locks give way, the cap goes 500 feet in the air behind a geyser of fuel.
Oh, lovely.
So it's raining fuel. It's raining fuel.
I was just about to have a smoke. Oh, darn.
Until someone finally runs up to the machine, hits the emergency shutoff, and finds the cam lock cap and puts it back on. That happened actually twice before we realized that we had 550 cord.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'd finally tie the cams shut.
There you go.
I can't believe that happened twice before we started tying them together.
Yeah, it's like, didn't I tell you to do that, Billy? No, sir. Yes, I did. Now you go get some 550 cord. Yeah. I
Oh
believe
boy,
I did.
deployments, I tell you. So what did we do for the day and a half between boring shifts on the fuel farm?
Yes.
Oh, that's a good question. Well, apparently that summer was rather unusual, or spring, I guess, is when it really was.
Yeah.
I guess it was rather unusual because there was a lot of sandstorms. And, you
Oh,
know,
lovely.
every time somebody goes to the sandbox, they called Afghanistan the rock pile and Iraq the sandbox.
Yeah.
Very good reasons for those two descriptors. All right. In Iraq, the sand would blow all day, every day, no matter where you were in Iraq. I'm
Yeah.
sure to this day it still does, but I'm not there, so I don't care.
Yeah.
But apparently that was an unusual spring with lots and lots of storms that nobody predicted. Uh, because it would seem that every other day, if we were working on tasks or doing our laundry or taking a bird bath or whatever the case may be, in the distance, about a mile away, we would see a wall of sand. And I'm not joking about that. You know how you see in the movies where, like, I saw The Mummy with
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser, right? And you see that wall of sand. Well, the face didn't show up in that wall of sand, but that's what it looked like coming at us in Iraq.
Oh, lovely.
And it really was. It was a towering wall of sand. And you'd see it about a mile away, and you go, all right, call the game. We need to go inside and put our gas masks on.
Yeah.
Because that was the most comfortable way of going through a sandstorm was with your gas mask on. Can't say we didn't use them over there because we did. We used them a lot. Just not for gas.
Yeah. Not for their intended purpose. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think, I think a lot of the times, like, of course, the face coming into it is Hollywood, but stuff like that, you look at it, and I'm pretty sure by like month 2, that was just kind of norm. It went from, oh my
Yeah.
God, what is that, to, oh, look.
Absolutely. Once
joy.
we got the MWR, what does MWR stand for? Morale, Welfare, Recreation.
Yeah.
Once we got that set up, we had volleyball, right? And
Yeah.
other, I don't know, we had footballs and frisbees and things like that, sports stuff.
Yeah.
But we set up the volleyball court and we had a great time. We played volleyball almost every day. Well, we played volleyball every single day. It's just I played volleyball almost every day. I've told you before, I'm lazy, haven't I?
Yeah.
I'd rather read a book than play volleyball, but yeah, I played a lot. So by month 2, we would see the wall of sand coming at us and go, yeah, we got about 15 more minutes. Let's get 2 more sets in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, that's at least a click out. We're good.
Oh yeah, we're good. We can keep playing.
I can't taste sand yet. We're good. Don't worry about it.
Oh
yeah.
I never stopped tasting sand.
Well,
One of the best
yeah.
descriptors I had when I got back. One of the best descriptors I had when I got back from the sandbox the first time. People would say, "What was it like over there?" And I go, "Oh, here, let me tell you. Set your oven to 350 degrees. Let it warm all the way up to 350 degrees. And then get yourself a nice, fan that can sit on the lip of the oven, right? So you pull the oven lid down, and you put that fan on there, and you turn the fan to high, and then you go and get a bowl of fine sand and you set it right in front of that fan, and then you take yourself your chair and you sit in front of the oven with the fan in front of it, with the bowl of sand in front of it, and then open your mouth and go,
Yeah.
that's what it was like over there.
Yeah. Never knew I could breathe rocks, but apparently I can. Yeah.
You know, they were so very careful about checking our equipment when we went home to make sure that we didn't bring any natural sand with us or anything like that. They never checked our lungs.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to see how much of that I got sandbags of it over here. I gained at least 40 pounds.
Oh, goodness.
No wonder I can't lose this weight. It's sand. Anyway.
All the stupid stuff we did. But yeah, so getting on with it. We, the quartermaster company I was with, we brought our own mess section tent, right? That's a trailer that you fold out the sides, and there's ramps going up and ramps going down. Bunch of trays and water heaters and things like that. So you dump a tray of sea rations in there and boil it up till it gets real hot, and then you take it out, use a can opener on it. They call that hot food, right?
Yeah.
Well, they are capable of actually grilling things and stuff in a mobile kitchen, right? So we were apparently the only unit on Objective Rams who had brought our mess section with us.
Ah.
And so we requested permission to set up the mess tent so that, you know, we could have hot chow twice a day. And we were denied that permission because not everybody at Objective Rams had a mess section. So we weren't allowed to set ours up.
Oh, that must have gone over like a lead balloon.
Oh, it did. It did. Let me tell you why, in my personal experience, that it went over like a lead balloon. Because I had to take reports up to the battalion or the base headquarters. And every time I walked in, they had their air conditioners running and their computers were on. And I saw that 90% of the people in headquarters were emailing people back home. And
yeah,
every single one of the personnel had a phone on their desk so they could call their loved ones at any time during the day or night. And there was no restricted access to the headquarters personnel, so they could sleep in that tent with all the air conditioning and computers and phones. But we couldn't set up our mess tent because not everybody had a mess tent that was at Objective Rams.
Oh, yeah. That might cause a slight revolt. Let me get this straight. Since these idiots didn't read the fine print about bringing their mess tent and they weren't a good Boy Scout and didn't come prepared, we get punished? Bullshit.
Now, the logical reason for that, and having medically separated as a senior non-commissioned officer, let me tell you, there are reasons for that. Now, computer equipment must be air conditioned. You cannot have a computer, running itself in 120 degree weather inside a tent.
No,
dear God, that would be terrible. Okay,
you might melt down in the process.
I get that. And of course, the headquarters section had to have computers and they had to have telephones. It was absolutely a requirement for them to do their job. Restricting the rest of the camp from using it was a dick move.
Yeah. Yeah, just a tad.
And telling us that we couldn't set up minor amenities for ourselves because not everybody had it was a dick move.
Yeah.
It's not like there were that many people on Objective Ram and everybody had at least one or two cooks with them. So they could have all rotated shifts and done the mess section as a camp mess. But whatever, who cares? They said no, so we didn't do it. not till later. We eventually just said, shove it up your ass, and we set up the mess tent anyway.
And everyone celebrated.
But that was annoying.
I would imagine.
So what did we do? Oh, right. Oh, at that time, right? We got the word that the war was over. Mission accomplished and all that on the aircraft carrier. I didn't know any of that till I got home. All we got word was that the fighting was over.
Yeah.
We were cool. We were chill. We were still securing areas and looking for Saddam and his sons and stuff like that. But for the most part, the fighting was over. The battle was won. We were victorious Americans. Now we get to start rebuilding Iraq. Oh boy, we get to start rebuilding Iraq. Yay.
Yeah.
So the local nationals started coming back to the local villages.
Mm-hmm.
And they started bringing back their chickens and their soda pops and things like. Oh, before I get to that, I just pulled out a cigarette. I remembered what I was going to say. Have you ever heard of the brand Sumar?
No.
And you never will, God willing, in your entire life, never hear of the brand Sumar.
That good, huh?
Well, I did tell you, I think, a couple of sessions ago anyway, we didn't have exchange support, right? So the Air Force Exchange Service wasn't in Iraq for the first month and a half or something like that, 6 weeks maybe.
Okay.
So most of us brought 1 or 2 cartons of cigarettes.
Yeah.
We really tried to stretch it out, but we were all out of cigarettes by the end of April. Every single one of us. And the fighting units had crashed into a warehouse up in Baghdad, and so there was a warehouse full of cigarettes and things like that, and eventually it all got turned over to local nationals. And so it turns out that these guys up in Baghdad were buying cartons of cigarettes for $5. Right, and they would come down to Objective Ramps to get fuel, and they were doing us a favor by selling us 2 packs for $5.
Oh yes, of course.
That was nice of them.
Yeah, real nice.
It was actually really cool, though. I mean, we were so happy to have cigarettes. We really didn't care.
I would imagine, yeah. Can't fault them for making a buck.
Oh, dear God, the Sumar cigarettes. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sure there had to have been tobacco in those things. There had to have been.
Somewhere.
But you would look at them and you would swear they were grass clippings. I mean, green and brown and some other unidentifiable color of strand of something was wrapped up in a paper with a filter on the end.
Yeah, there you go.
So it was a manufactured product, so it had to have had some tobacco in it, right?
You hope. Yeah.
Boy. So that was our supply line. The combat troops would come back and get refueled and then go forward again. That was our supply line for a little while. We'd give them everything they needed: food, water, fuel, bullets, and all that stuff, and they'd go forward and they'd come back and sell us luxury items.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, that'll work, I guess, for now. Finally, the Air Force Exchange Services finally made it into Iraq, but they only ever brought 1 trailer with them.
Okay.
1 trailer for 1 camp is not enough luxury items.
No.
And of course, they had to have the requisite crap on there, right? Like they'd have shelves of starch, and because at that time we were still in BDU, battle dress uniform, instead of the ACU, the Army Combat Uniform. So it was the big brown and black and green splotchy uniform, right? Woodland camouflage. And we were, starching and ironing and all that stuff. Not in Iraq, but back at home.
Yeah.
So AFES made a lot of money on starch and irons and so forth like that. And so all of their trucks were stocked with all this homemaking crap. And they only had half the trailer filled with cigarettes and sodas, because we weren't allowed to have alcohol.
No.
Cigarettes and sodas. So we were rationed to 1 carton per trip, and they only came out every 2 weeks. It was like, good God. And we're paying full American prices for these things, right? So
Lovely.
at that time, like $70 for a carton.
Oof.
And we can only buy 1 carton and 1 12-pack, and that's it. And all the snack
Yikes.
food was always gone before I got on the trailer, so I never knew what kind of snack food there was.
Oh, lovely.
Mm-hmm. So what I brought from home was a couple of cans of Hormel chili and a couple of bags of this and that. And I did bring a 12-pack of Mountain Dew, and I kept that until July. I think I drank my last Mountain Dew. I mean, I was really stingy with my Mountain Dew. Like, I could ration my Mountain Dew better than I rationed my cigarettes. I can tell you that right now.
Well, speaking Mountain Dew, you can't speak Mountain Dew on this channel without saying, "Well, Doom would be proud of you."
Yeah, I know.
Gotta throw that in. Doom would be proud of you. You ration that Mountain Dew, boy. That is the nectar of the gods.
Yes, sir. Although it was the green stuff, not the red stuff he liked to drink.
Yeah. Well, it's still Mountain Dew. It counts.
So yeah, that's the supply situation. And then a couple months into, again, you're talking Groundhog's Day, right? I mean, things happen, people get into arguments, the drama, and all that stuff. I was the combat lifesaver, not a medic, combat lifesaver. I had 2 weeks worth of training in medical skills to be able to run an IV and stuff like that. And so this whole time I'm running IVs and going over to the aid station to get more IVs and coming back and running those IVs. Did I tell you about the fingertip slip?
No.
I didn't tell you about that. Okay. Was that in 2003 or 2005? It was in 2003. I'm sure it was in 2003. Well, I'll tell it for 2003. Because why not? I was a combat medic. I was a combat lifesaver in both of them. So, friend of mine was using it's a grounding rod that has a slip hammer at the top. So you slide it up and slide it down and smack it against the plate, and it drives the grounding rod into the ground about 4 or 5 feet. You attach a grounding cable to it, and you're safe to fuel. Yay. Well, obviously it's hot. It's April in Iraq, and it sucks, and it's hot, and it's sweaty, and it's sandy, and you got sweat in your eyes, and sand in your eyes, and sand in your teeth, and everything you eat has grit to it. It's like, why is it that I put salt on my food and people make fun of me, but I could pour a whole bucket of sand on it and nobody would care?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so he was using the slip hammer to drive the grounding rod into the ground, and his hand slipped down, and his ring finger was caught between the slide hammer and the drive plate, and so he nipped the tip of his finger off.
Ow.
It was he didn't actually fracture the bone, which was a good thing. It just took the fingernail and the tip of his finger off. And it was hanging on by a little piece of skin. And I mean, the guy didn't shout, he didn't yell, he just said, "Hey, Specialist Christopher, come over here." I was like, "Yeah, what's up, Sark?" And he showed me his finger, and I went, "Wow, how'd you do that?" And he pointed at the grounding rod, and I went, "Oh yeah, okay. Well, I better get you over to the medic tent. He said, no, we're too busy. Just go ahead and patch it up. I went, ooh, that's really going to hurt. All I have is alcohol. He was like, just do it. Okay. So I grabbed my rubbing alcohol. No joke. And I cleaned off the tip of his finger first. And then I cleaned off the bone. And I patted it all dry. And he was holding his hand going the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, you're doing great, Sergeant. That's fantastic. So I put his fingertip back on, and I lined it up as best I could so his fingerprint would match. And then I wrapped the shit out of it with gauze and tape. And I said, there you go, Sergeant. You're all patched up. And he went back to pounding away on that.
Yeah.
On that.
Well, if you will, I'll drop a little story in here because it reminds me of my dad. If you don't mind.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So the story you just told made me smile because it reminded me of my father. And the guy you dealt with must have been either, raised in the same area or drank the same water as my dad, because my dad, as he got older, his skin got frail. So he could rub up against a wall and he'd end up cutting himself somehow.
Yeah.
Right? The skin would rub. Right? He was old. So there was, I was about, I had to be about 7 or 8 at the time. And my dad, on the inside of his arm, right next to his tattoo of a dancing lady, my dad had a it wasn't a cut per se, but it was, he had rubbed the skin off, like he had basically rubbed his inside of his arm on the counter.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Well, when he did that, he pulled back about,
Oh, so you had a flap of skin.
Well, no, it was just like, how like you scrape.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, from about just under the elbow to the wrist. And
long
he's like,
scrape.
Yeah, he wasn't very amused with himself. And so my dad pretty well at that time had kept the house pretty, Band-Aids. I was 7, 8, so I was always needing those. And, rubbing alcohol, etc., right? So dad does that, and he's kind of swearing in the kitchen, and not out of pain, just out of anger. And
sure.
Right? And my dad goes, my boy, yeah, Dad, go into the bathroom. I'm thinking he's going to tell me, get me the rubbing alcohol. That's not what my dad says. My dad goes, my boy, go into the bathroom, go underneath the sink and grab me the turpentine.
Okay.
Alrighty then. So, like a good son, I go into the bathroom, go underneath the sink. I find the tin of turpentine. I bring it out to my dad. My dad's now sitting at his kitchen table. And he grabs the tin of turpentine. He's got a towel underneath his arm. Puts his arm down, grabs the tin of turpentine, spins off the cap, dumps the turpentine on his arm. Does not flinch once.
Ooh-wee.
Wipes it dry and then carries on with his day. So me being the learned son of my father, the next time I got a paper cut, I didn't reach for no rubbing alcohol. If rubbing alcohol is not good enough for my dad, it's not good enough for me. Fudge that shit. I grabbed the turpentine and I dumped my finger in that sumbitch. I don't think I've stopped yelling about that.
Yeah, that
carry
sounds
on.
accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, joy. The things we've done.
Yeah. I don't know what the fuck he was made of, but you ever dip a cut in turpentine, I tell you this, you will swear. You will find out swears you didn't know you knew.
Yeah.
But my father, just straight as a board, and he dumped it on his arm like he was dumping water on it. I was just like,
Yeah, well,
How
he knew
the-
it was coming.
Yeah. Such ducks.
So yeah, we took him to the medic the next morning, and they took the bandage off, and they said, well, if you'd come in yesterday, we'd give you stitches, but it's already reattaching, so we're just going to wrap it again in clean gauze. Here's some more clean gauze so you can take care of it again tomorrow. Keep it wrapped for a week or so, and you'll be good.
Yeah.
So I did pretty good on that one.
Yeah, there you go.
The next emergency, and I don't count running IVs emergencies.
No.
Those became routine in the first couple of days.
Yeah.
The next emergency, when you have appendicitis,
Oh.
right? The pain is on your left side, and it's very, very painful, and you're sweating, and you're pooping and throwing up and all that stuff. And well, I got a call about 2:00 in the morning. They come and shook me out of my bunk, my rack, my cot, whatever. My squad leader was doing all of that. And I was like, oh, shit, we need to get him to the medics right damn now.
Yeah.
I didn't think to ask him if he had ever had his appendix out because it was, he's vomiting and sweating and shitting all over the place. And I'm like, oh, damn, we need to take care of this because he was super tender on the left side or right side. I mean, and so we got him to the medic, and I waited around for a bit, and they were like, oh, yeah, he's got kidney stones. I was like, well, that's embarrassing. I'm glad he's going to live. Bye.
Yeah, I gotta go now. Can I go back to bed? Jeez. Couldn't even die for me. Jeez.
Turns out that the water that we were receiving from Kuwait was mineral water. And so kidney stones.
Yeah, that'll do
Kidney
it.
stones became the passe thing to have in Iraq in 2003.
Yeah. Let's
Like,
compare
I
stones.
just passed another kidney stone. I'm fine.
Yeah. Let's compare stones. Who's bigger? Are you guys playing marbles? No, we're playing stones.
No, we're playing stones. Don't cross the streams. One might get in your eye.
Yeah.
No, that was cool though. And then a little while later, it had to have been June. Yeah, it had to have been June because we were pretty well established and bored. The local nationals started bringing supplies close to the base, and so we'd go outside the wire and buy the local equivalent to, Pepsi and Coke, and they finally got their ice house working again, so we finally had cold ice, although we couldn't drink it because we didn't know what the quality of the water was.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
Well, we kind of did know what the quality of the water was, so we weren't going to drink it anyway.
Yeah.
But at the very least, you could take your water bottles and put them in there. But we'd fill up a can with the sodas that we bought, and then fill it up with the ice blocks, and then fill it up with a little bit of water. Oh, God, that was a nice couple of weeks. Whew. Finally, cold soda. Yes. Woo.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
How many now? Just because I know what happens when you store a soda pop in really hot temperatures, like anybody who's done that in the back of their car on a camping trip will know. How many of those priceless sodas just exploded on opening?
A few did while we were coming back from the market. But, I was willing to wait to get it in the ice.
Yeah. Because if you open that hot soda, it's just going to blow up
all over the place. On the
yeah.
other hand, they had a lot of fun spraying it all over each other, too.
Oh, I would imagine, yeah. And then swear about it later when it was sticky.
And then, of course, naturally, you're sitting around on the porch one day and you're looking at that ice bucket and you think to yourself, It'd be awful nice to stick my head in that bucket.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then somebody else says, "You know what? I bet I could keep my arm in that bucket longer than you."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the five of us go, "Oh yeah."
Yeah. We'll see about that, Timmy. Yeah. And that's why we don't drink the water. But anyway.
Oh, that was fun though. The stupid games you come up with. I mean, you're talking about people. This is a mixed gender company, right?
Yeah.
And so you're looking at people trying to find places to have quiet time.
Yeah. Sure, we'll call it that. Quiet time.
And then you have those people who are so vain, right? They're working out all the time, and you got perfect conditions. You got scorching sunlight and open bed of a back truck and stuff like that. So they'd go up into the back of a truck and they'd look around real quick and they'd duck down and take all their clothes off and they'd lay in the back of the truck. And sometimes there would be a scare or something and they'd jump up and you go, "Woo, free peek."
Uh-huh. See, I know a few people that may have accidentally waited for that said person to be sleeping while suntanning and then put like a bar down their back or something so that they
I
one
was
strip.
never that person. I was never that person. I was never clever enough.
Why do you look like a zebra, Corporal? Don't ask.
Everybody knew everything was going on. I mean, our platoon sergeant and one of the company clerks were married. They were married, and so they got to share a tent. Well, they were the only married couple on that deployment, and so everybody else was like, "Well, what am I gonna do?"
Yeah. Hold up. Is there a preacher around here? Padre.
So many hookups and breakups on that deployment. It was absolutely
I could imagine.
Ridiculous.
I could imagine.
But me and my married woman right next to each other never laid a hand on one another.
No, there you go.
I was the paladin of paladins.
Yes.
Chivalry is not dead in my corner.
No. But so there is a story that I don't know if I'm going too far in the future or if I'm nailing it, but there's a story that you did tell in your episodes that I think soon should be brought to light again because I crack up laughing. And that is what happens when a gallon bag goes boom.
Yeah. Let's see. I was thinking about leaving the packing up and driving back to Kuwait for next time.
All right.
But we can go long if you want to. I can tell the stories.
No,
we
can
drive back into Kuwait was, well, it wasn't anticlimactic. It was just kind of what it was. So
yeah,
I think having an exciting story about boom boom bags.
yeah, that'll work.
Better for next time.
Yeah, that'll work. I just wanted to know where in the storyline that was coming because I need popcorn for that.
Just before we rolled back out from the campsite and went back down to Kuwait for redeployment home.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good story for next time.
I think so.
You or anybody in the chat got questions or anything like that?
Yeah. I think. Well, okay, because we hear about I'd like you to go a little bit more into like the day to day, and I know it's mundane for you because it's like, well, it's just what we did, but a lot of people don't tell that side, right? Like, if you're hearing a World War II story, right, and you're talking about a fort, or you're talking about a battlement, or you're talking about something like that, you hear about the battles that were fought, how many dead,
Yeah.
how many survived. You don't hear about what the bathrooms were. Like these are like, all right, cool. So that's where you fought. That's where you did. Where did you poop? Right?
I think I did talk about the
Yeah, you
bathrooms,
did
didn't I?
talk about the bathrooms, but I mean, like, more like just the day to day, because we don't hear about that. We hear about when anything goes wrong. We don't hear about like what life is actually like because you watch a movie and it's painted, okay, your action 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're always on the go,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And then real life kicks in, and it's like, nah, dude. That's 5% of the time. Here's the other side that you
Yeah.
don't want to do. Like, for instance, lighting a toiletry on fire so that you can use it again. These are things you don't get talked about because they're not quote
Well, they're
unquote
not
exciting.
glamorous. Yeah,
Yeah, they're
I
not
know.
exciting. So
It's minutes of holy terror and hours of boredom
yeah,
is what it is. And so, I brought a few books, and a few other people brought a few books, but within weeks, I was completely out of reading material. No magazines, no newspapers, no books, no nothing I hadn't read in the entire camp. And I'm talking, I got so bored at one point, I started reading manuals and things again. It's like, oh God, I'm so bored. I need to read something.
you're bored when you're reading the manual for something you will never
So
use.
let's see. I think I was 195 pounds when I left for that deployment. 190 or 195 pounds, something like that. And when I got back in July, I was 170 pounds. Not because I intended to lose weight, not because I was working out, not because was. I was literally starved while I was over there because all the food would go for. I told you this before. I picked through the trash to find a beef with mushrooms, and I farthing hate mushrooms.
Yeah,
I absolutely hate mushrooms. But I dug through the trash to find a beef with mushrooms because I was so damn hungry I couldn't stand it. And the water, like I said, was in the sun, and it was mineral water that was sitting in the sun that you could, make coffee with. Like, okay, have you ever been so thirsty that your tongue was swollen up in your mouth and you had nothing but paste on your teeth and your cheeks and your lips and your gums and everything? It was just, oh my God. It's like if I don't get something to drink soon, so I'd crack that open and I'd pour that 120-degree water down my throat and go, ah, ah, ah. So, yeah, I stayed alive by picking through the trash. Just anyway, but a normal day to day thing, right? So you'd get up at dark 30, call it 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever.
mm-hmm.
And you'd scrub your pits with your baby wipes and brush your teeth and drink a bottle of 200-degree water and if you felt like eating, which usually in the morning I didn't, then you'd eat something. And then if it was your time to go and work on the fuel farm, then you'd go and turn valves and turn pumps on and off. And we didn't even bother gauging, the bags or the trucks or anything like that. It's just, okay, I think it's full. All right, get out of here. Bye.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? It's fuel. Just let it go.
Yeah.
And it just becomes a routine, an absolute boredom routine. So even if there's a leak in the bag, right, you stick a wooden dowel in it and call it good, because if you take that dowel out and try and put the actual patch that comes with the bag in, it ain't gonna work. So you just stick the dowel in it and let it drip instead of spraying a pencil thin spray of fuel. You just let it drip. So every time you got to go in there, you get your boots soaking wet with fuel, and you can't change your boots and socks until the end of your shift. So by the time the end of the shift comes around, you take your boots and socks off, and you got your skin sloughing off along with your socks.
Oh, lovely.
Oh yeah, jet fuel's a good stuff. Everybody loves walking around in it.
Oh yeah, probably not. Um,
So now when people talk about me smoking around 5-gallon gas cans, I just go, eh.
yeah, it's like, um,
Not my first rodeo.
yeah, yeah. Eh.
But if you're not on the fuel farm, right, for a 12-hour shift, and you're taking your day and a half to do push-ups and sit-ups and run around the camp 18 times to get a mile in, then you're sitting on the makeshift porch that you put together with 6 pallets on your folding camp chair and trying to figure out what's the best way to make some shade over this tent, because it's going to be real hot today.
yeah.
Or you're playing volleyball, or you're, just trying to get news from home, I think, was the hardest part. Some people had radios, but we really weren't getting much news from home.
So I got a question. On those runs to the officers' mess where they have the air conditioners and stuff, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to give you the Scotty logic here. How long would those runs typically take, and how long do those runs take because it's cool in there?
I only did it a couple of times. When people started volunteering, I let them go.
Yeah, I would imagine that was very volunteered for.
Yeah, it was extremely volunteered for. So I only went a couple of times, and I was so irritated with the headquarters group that I would just do my job and leave.
Yeah.
So it never took me very long, just a few minutes. And to be perfectly honest with you, if I didn't have air conditioning in the tent, I didn't really want to get used to it by visiting the headquarters.
No, because then it would be worse. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it would be much, much worse. So when other people volunteered to do it, I just let them go. So, yeah, go ahead. Take your time.
Yeah, don't worry, I will. That's kind of the plan.
People would come up to me and say, hey, Specialist Christopher, I'm really dehydrated. You know what? I'd appreciate it if you give me an IV. And I'd go, no, you know what? I appreciate that you're dehydrated. I need to save these bags for emergencies. Why don't you go over to the medic's tent and get an IV? And they would look at me and they'd go, oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
yeah, because they have air conditioning.
Because they had air conditioning in the medic tent, too.
I believe you're upgraded to medic tent.
And
yes!
So the troops would get to go over there, and the medics over there knew it. If they didn't have an emergency, the beds were open,
Mm-hmm.
Combat Lifesaver sends them over. The medics are going to be like, yeah, lay down on that cot over there. We'll run an IV.
Yeah.
And they did. They ran an IV. So, yeah, it was really a very functional group after a couple of months. Everybody knew where they could and should and shouldn't and would and wouldn't. And
yeah. Everybody knew how far they could push and when.
Yeah, exactly.
What rules they could bend and what rules were ironclad.
Exactly. Yeah. So we got into a pretty good rhythm, and we got into a bunch of you do this for me and I'll shave your back tomorrow and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just came down to passing the time. And we still had guard rotations as well. We had a 50 cal point that we manned every day, but Like I said before, we were one of the most guarded sections in the entire country
Yeah,
because we had the fuel.
yeah,
And
and
so
you're going to be guarded. Yeah, so
you oil the
if
50 cal and you make sure that the function check is done when you go on guard duty. But
but
other than
it's a pretty
that, it's
safe
like,
assumption that if they've gotten to you,
yeah, if they've gotten to us, there's a problem. There's
they're
a
more. There
problem.
is a more problems than just those dudes. Okay, if they've gotten as far as us, we're in a
And
shit house and we don't know about it.
our last 3 minutes are going to be very exciting.
Yes. Yeah. 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 And then you get that crazy bastard who just goes, light them up. What are you talking about? Light them
Light
up.
who up?
The bags. What? Wait till they get within 100 feet and light
Oh
them up.
my, no. Those cannot be used as weapons. At best, they could be used as obscurement smoke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, I just light them up. Why? I want to go that way, and I don't want anybody to know I'm going that way. And that should work. All right.
But
With
yeah,
that,
I mean, without that, you've got board games, of course. We played a lot of chess, lots of checkers, lots of spades. Never poker because gambling is illegal.
yeah. And how many times did you? Yeah, never poker. Yeah, I could just see that quotation marks over your head.
I think somebody had one of those DVD players with one of the pop-up screens that was attached to it.
Oh yeah.
And so we'd watch a movie. We couldn't hear a damn thing because the volume wouldn't go up nearly loud enough.
Yeah.
Well, we'd watch a movie now and then.
Cool.
It
All right.
really was. It was just boring as hell.
Yeah. All right. So what we'll do is we'll put a pin in it there, and then we will carry on. So you have in 2 weeks we have an explosive story that we will tell, and that's all I'll say on that. Do join me on my other channel, Rambling Canuck, tomorrow. We will have karaoke as always. Also, tomorrow there may or may not be a stream. I don't know. I haven't got all the details yet. I might be joining a panel on the present convoy situation here in Canada. So look out for that. Also, just so everybody is aware, by Monday, well, by tomorrow, I will have the old office back up and running because after I'm done this live stream, I'm going into the other room and I'm attaching wires and hitting buttons and watching things actually work. Yay! And then it'll be the long processes of setting up the new system. So by karaoke, I should be in the old office, which will be nice instead of in here. So I should be able to produce content again. Yay! I just got to download everything and get everything back and grr. But at any rate, with that, I will say thank you to special to Danny Christopher, aka Mr.CCDV, and thank you to everybody who's put up with us as we rambled and talked. And once again, if you do, I neglected to put his link in the description, but I will do that later. If you want cooking or random streams, or I believe you have a pain series going on.
Yeah, more chronic pain than
cooking
or rambling.
Yeah, so do tune in for that. They're usually rather informative, and they're a good group. I stop in from time to time. I haven't been there in a while, but I should one of these days.
It's really kind of it's not really scheduled anymore.
No, but that's all right. We just live by this. Screw it, we'll do it live.
Right on.
Yeah, and with that, thank you all, and till next time. Good night.